Have you ever wondered what was on the dinner table a few thousand years ago? Well, it turns out that what you ate back then said a lot more about you than just your taste. In ancient civilizations, your diet was a clear sign of your social status. From the fertile Nile Valley to the bustling streets of Rome, food was one of the most powerful ways to distinguish the rich from the poor. Welcome to FoodSaga. Like, subscribe, and comment for more. Let's start. Let's dig into how diet created a massive divide in the ancient world. For the vast majority of people, the everyday menu was simple and repetitive. Think grains, and more grains. In ancient Egypt, barley and emmer wheat were king. People would grind them into coarse flour to make bread and brew beer. This wasn't the soft, fluffy bread we know today. It was dense, gritty, and often contained sand from the grinding stones, which really did a number on people's teeth. Alongside bread, legumes like lentils and chickpeas were a vital source of protein. Onions, garlic, and leeks were common vegetables that added a bit of flavor to an otherwise bland diet. This was survival food, designed to provide calories for a hard day's work in the fields or on a construction site. It was filling, but far from exciting. Now, let's climb the social ladder and see what the elite were eating. If you were a pharaoh, a priest, or a high-ranking official, your dining experience was completely different. The centerpiece of any wealthy Egyptian's meal was meat. While the poor might get a taste of pork or fish on a special occasion, the rich feasted regularly on beef, goat, and a variety of poultry like ducks and geese. Cattle were a symbol of wealth, and a single roasted ox at a banquet was the ultimate status symbol. Paintings and tombs show us lavish feasts with mountains of food, attended by servants catering to every need. But it wasn't just about the meat. The wealthy also had access to a much wider array of delicious treats. Honey was the primary sweetener, and it was a luxury item. The elite enjoyed honey-sweetened cakes and desserts, a world away from the simple fare of the common folk. They also drank wine, produced in vineyards along the Nile Delta. Different wines from different estates were even rated, much like today. Fruits like figs, dates, and pomegranates were plentiful on their tables. The contrast is stark. While a farmer ate coarse bread and onions, a noble might be dining on roasted duck, honey cakes, and a fine glass of wine. Food wasn't just for sustenance, it was for pleasure and for showing off. Let's travel over to ancient Rome, where the dietary divide was just as dramatic. The Roman Empire was a massive, sprawling entity, and its capital was a melting pot of cultures and cuisines, but access was everything. For the urban poor, the plebeians, life depended on the annona, the public grain dole. The government distributed grain, often for free or at a subsidized price, to keep the massive population from rioting. This grain was turned into a simple porridge called pulse or a rough, dark bread. This was the fuel that kept the city running. Vegetables like cabbage, turnips, and beans filled out their meals. For protein, it was whatever was cheapest and most available, maybe a little bit of salty fish or some cheese. Now imagine being a wealthy Roman senator. Your day might start with a light breakfast of bread, cheese, and olives, but the main event was the cena, or dinner. This was a lavish, multi-course affair that could last for hours. It was a social ritual, a place to do business and display your wealth and sophistication. The appetizers, or gustatio, might include eggs, olives, and shellfish like oysters. The main courses, or prime mensae, were a spectacle. We're talking roasted boar, peacock, flamingo, and even dormice, which were considered a delicacy. These animals were often presented whole before being carved. Sauces were incredibly important. One of the most common was garum, a fermented fish sauce that was the Roman equivalent of ketchup. The finest garum was incredibly expensive and a staple in any wealthy kitchen, and the variety didn't stop there. The power of the Roman Empire meant they could import exotic ingredients from all corners of their territory. Spices like pepper from India, herbs from the East, and fruits from North Africa all made their way to the tables of the rich. While a poor Roman might never taste pepper in their entire life, a wealthy merchant could season his food with spices that had traveled thousands of miles. This access to global trade was a clear marker of status. Finally, the secondi mensae, or dessert course, would feature fruits, nuts, and pastries sweetened with honey. All of this was washed down with copious amounts of wine, often mixed with water and sometimes flavored with spices or honey. The Roman elite literally tasted the power of their empire on their plates every single night. This pattern repeats itself across ancient civilizations. In ancient Greece, the democratic ideals didn't quite extend to the dinner table. The diet for most was the Mediterranean triad: cereals, olives, and grapes. Barley was the main grain, made into a paste called mazer. Olive oil was a crucial source of fat and calories. Wine was a daily drink for almost everyone, but it was always mixed with water. Meat, especially red meat, was rare and usually only eaten after a religious sacrifice, where the animal was offered to the gods and the meat was distributed among the participants. The Greek elite, however, had a different story. They ate a much more varied diet. They preferred wheat bread over barley mazer. They had access to more fresh fish, cheese, and, of course, meat from their own livestock. The symposium, a drinking party for aristocratic men, was a key social institution. While it was centered on wine, it was also an opportunity to enjoy sophisticated food and conversation. What you ate, and even how you ate, signaled your education and social standing. Using refined manners and discussing philosophy while dining was a world away from a farmer quickly eating his barley paste in the fields. So why was food such a powerful social divider? It really comes down to control. The wealthy elite in these societies weren't just rich, they were powerful. They were the landowners, the ones who controlled agricultural production. In Egypt, the pharaoh and the temples owned vast tracts of fertile land. They collected taxes in the form of grain and livestock from the farmers who worked the land. This system ensured that the best of the harvest flowed upwards, concentrating the finest foods in the hands of the few. They controlled the surplus, which gave them the power to feed armies, fund building projects, and, of course, throw extravagant banquets. In Rome, the wealthy senatorial class owned enormous agricultural estates called latifundia that were worked by slaves. These estates produced the wine, olive oil, and grain that supplied the cities and made their owners incredibly rich. They also controlled the trade routes, which brought luxury goods and exotic spices from across the empire. By controlling the entire food supply chain, from production to distribution, the elite could dictate who ate what. This control over food was a fundamental pillar of their social and political dominance. It reinforced the existing hierarchy every single day, at every single meal. In essence, your plate was a reflection of your place in the world. For the poor, food was about survival. It was about getting enough calories to make it through another day of hard labor. For the rich, food was about power, pleasure, and prestige. It was a form of theater, a way to display their wealth, their connections, and their mastery over the world. The stark contrast between a simple bowl of porridge and a roasted peacock seasoned with exotic spices is a powerful reminder of the deep inequalities that have shaped human societies for millennia. It shows that the history of food is not just about what we ate, but about who we were and who held the power. So the next time you sit down for a meal, think about the incredible journey of the ingredients on your plate. In our modern world, we have access to a variety of foods that would have been unimaginable to even the wealthiest ancient king. But the echoes of that ancient divide still exist. The connection between wealth, power, and diet is a story as old as civilization itself. Thanks for watching FoodSaga. If you found this journey into the ancient pantry interesting, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into history. Let me know in the comments what ancient food you most want to try, and see you next time.